Welcome to Heirs and Spares, your go-to for insight and opinion on two of the most talked about royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield. A lot of chatter lately about whether Prince William would strip Prince Andrew and Prince Harry of their titles. And so there's this bombshell report in the Daily Telegraph, which is often seen as the palace's preferred paper, that claims that Prince William intends to address the, quote, Prince Andrew problem head on when he becomes king, taking steps his father has so far avoided by permanently removing his disgraced uncle from the royal family's official ranks. Now, this can be dissected a million different ways. We'll talk about this HRH versus taking the Duke title away versus taking the Prince title away. I've never even imagined taking the Prince title away, but they're claiming that Andrew could be stripped of the title Prince entirely by William, with new legislation introduced by the government to formalize its removal. Can I have your opinion on that? And we'll talk about some of the other quotes from the piece.
I don't think the government probably got more important things to be worrying about. Of course, we don't know when Prince William will ascend to the throne, but I don't see that as being a priority. What I do see is Andrew's is frustrating every member of the family. And obviously this latest book has added to the total frustration. And when the royal family has got to get its PR right, endless stories about Prince Andrew are not great for the look of the family. And he has put a bit of disgrace on the rest of the hard-working family. Remember, it was, I think, within the week, Princess Anne celebrated her 75th birthday, and so which has been distracted by the endless headlines surrounding Prince Andrew's life. And I think that's part of the frustration for William, when he knows when he takes over, he's going to have a pretty pared down royal family. And how's it going to look? We're relying on people to step up to the plate. Now, could it be that Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, who get on very well with William, are seen as two who could quietly go about the business and supporting the king? So it'd be quite interesting to see what develops over the coming weeks. But William, I think, is desperately frustrated by this endless headlines when it's not a good look, when they want to try and create a positive vibe around the family, and Andrew doesn't. I don't think it will go as far as perhaps this article is suggesting, but it might just suggest the level of thinking that Prince William has.
I want to start out by saying I very much sympathize with Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice. They are total innocents in this, and I especially feel bad for them today, having to read some of these stories about their father and their mother and the headlines. And those stories, as the book comes out, people will notice different facts and different pieces of information. So this is a slow drip that's probably going to be a very prolonged and difficult period for them. And I do really, really feel sorry for them, because as far as I can see, Andrew Loney goes into some weird financial issues where he'll say a daughter receives a pretty significant amount of money for said wedding or said. So I don't know. I'm assuming that these girls are 100% innocent. Tom Sykes of the Daily Beast says, despite their innocence, they can't come back to work for the British royal family because they are a reflection of Prince Andrew and Fergie. Do you think that's debatable, or do you think that that's a fair point? Because I've always thought, I really don't know if they can step up and be significant members when we're always going to go, remember Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, yes, but they are the innocent party in it. And people who know them say that, of course they're going to be crushed by what's going on when you read lurid headlines about your mother and father. And it must be so, just looking at the human interest point of view, pretty tough on them. But Andrew's created these problems by his arrogance and putting his daughters in difficult situations. But people who know them say they are grounded as much as they can be, and actually could be, because they already do quite a lot of, charity work and get on with it in a very unassuming way. Don't try and draw attention overtly to it. So they've got a good history so far of trying to do the right thing, and I think they'd be. I know they're always going to have the sort of shadow of Prince Andrew, their father, hanging over him by his actions, but I do think there could be a way forward. It is a problem for William because, as I think we've discussed, once outside the King's generation, who is there? And that is the problem. Could Zara and Mike step up to the plate and say, go and support his brother? I don't know. So there's all sorts of interesting problems for the future king to worry about as to how the future royal family operates on the kind of scale that it needs to. And that's going to be the difficulty going forward. And that's why Harry's action all those years ago it's very selfish because he's actually put more pressure on his brother when he becomes king.
Oh, well, they would love nothing more than to come back and do half in, half out. Now it's us that are
Well,
going, please, for the love of God, no, don't. What about this quote from Christopher Wilson, this royal historian? I've been eager to talk to him for years because I think he's so much fun to listen to. He says that William has hard-nosed ideas about how the royal family needs to appear in the frenzied social media world we now inhabit, and I think he will be ruthless. Imagine what Prince William saw online at the height of the Where's Kate chaos and some of the cruel conspiracy theories that were circulating. I do imagine that Prince William is hypersensitive when it comes to the digital age.
yeah, and you can understand. It's when the king was being brought, the current king, social media, you could get on with things. It wasn't blazoned everywhere, and things were sort of brushed under the carpet, and news never got out. That's why people perhaps were quite fascinated with The Crown in the early stages because it was based on facts of the time. Okay, given a Hollywood narrative. But nowadays, everything social media, you can't move. And the royal family and the pressure on Kate when Princess Wales was diagnosed was enormous. And not only from her, trying to recover, but the sort of public curiosity value made it very difficult for all and sundry. And that is a big problem going forward. And that's what William is trying to navigate, because not only about his father, but also about his wife. And he's in a very difficult position. And I can understand why he might be feeling quite angry about the situation as it stands, because it's not of his doing. It's been created by two members of his family who, for whatever reason, have behaved like idiots.
Mm. Yeah, because this Telegraph says, the Telegraph article says that sources around Prince William appear to confirm that William understands the reputational threat his uncle possesses to the monarchy in this new generation and won't shy away from taking action if it needs to fall to him. I feel like I say this as the Trump administration is refusing to release the Epstein documents, but I feel like we might be at the height of the worst, right? And so like I feel like maybe that description makes it sound like Prince William will step in and do something if he has to. But we might be at the height of the chaos and there might not be a reason to going forward. This might be the worst. This might be the peak.
Well, it never seems to end, this Epstein scandal.
Yeah.
And obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell's still around, so therein lies part of the problem. There always seems to be something else that comes out, and the sort of lurid speculation around these tapes and everything that's going on. So it is, but Andrew needs it to go away, and maybe it will finally. This book. But as you said already, the cloud of Jeffrey Epstein hangs over him. It is the defining, apart from the TV interview where, the Pizza Express got the best bit of headlines ever, and he didn't sweat. That has been the thing that has defined him, and his poor choice of friends have led to this difficulty. And maybe it will go away, but I don't know no one knows what's going to go on in America, how it's going to pan out. Who people do want it to come out. I believe certain elements of the Republican Party do, some don't. I mean, it sounds a very confusing picture as to what will happen in the future. But whatever, for Prince Andrew, it just hasn't been a good look. And he needs to go away and reflect. But his ability to reflect is not something that he's particularly good at.
Or famous for, no. He's famous for maybe the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about News Nation's report. And I just want to point out that one thing that the Telegraph says that News Nation also is reporting is that Prince Andrew, under a Prince William reign, will not be invited to any family events again, will never appear with other royals, and may not even be invited to Prince William's coronation. Now, that's the Telegraph. News Nation doesn't go as far, although that wouldn't shock me. Um, what do you have a reaction to the coronation? I mean,
Well, it's a
I know
different.
we're playing a guessing game, and some people get annoyed by this, but I think that it's fascinating to determine because every move that these people make, it goes in the history books, and every move that they make can affect public perception, and they have to have the public on their side, or they jeopardize their not only their legacy, but they jeopardize the future of the monarchy for their children and their children's children. So everything has to be closely decided and strategized.
Well, and this is the problem. They don't want Andrew to be a distraction. And as we've seen, it's with Harry. When he turns up, it's a distraction from the main emphasis. And when Andrew turns up, obviously, quite often he's seen at Sandringham, but he's not anymore. He's kept away from that. The Garter Parade, I think he was kept well away. You wouldn't see him at Royal Ascot, the sort of semi-public, private things that the royal family do, which would be trooping of the colour, all members of the family turn up, but of course he's no longer involved in that. So increasingly, he's just going to be marginalised and not photographed because they know it's a distraction. Where is he? He's lurking in the wings because he's not allowed to be in public. Remember, I think, wasn't it the when the Queen, he came out and he helped the Queen at a service. Was it the Jubilee service, the Platinum Jubilee service, when he was around and he helped and he was almost had a very prominent position within that. And that didn't attract the right sort of headlines. Yet, that was him helping his mother. But he's created this difficulty.
And do you
And
remember when
only he has.
remember when everybody was mad at him for talking about his father after he passed away? He went and spoke to media after Prince Philip passed away, and everyone said that was inappropriate because of all of that, because he was, he had embarrassed his father basically. And at some point, I had this conversation with you when people were angry that he was at the church with them. At some point, you have to be like, this is also a family. And if he
Yeah,
wants to remember his father, was it his father or his mother? Didn't he talked to media
yeah.
outlets and people were horrified that he had the audacity.
And in a way, I think he certainly, if I remember right, I think it was his mother, but
Mm.
for him, and she, by all accounts, was devoted to him, and maybe to his detriment, because obviously there was a gap between Princess Anne and Prince Andrew, and it comes, then she has her third child, and maybe that he was a bit spoilt by her and wasn't actually brought into line. Look, as we've discussed, I mean, I did go to school with Andrew at prep school between the ages of 8 and 13. And even then, he was pretty convinced of his own self-importance. So, he hasn't, the leopard has not changed its spots. They say, look at the child at 7 and then you might see the man. Well, if he was, what we got to see was he became an increasingly worse version of what he was at school. So it is quite interesting the way they're going to have to deal with this. I don't think we'll see him in public. The only time we seem to see him now is driving his car around Windsor Park with his ex-wife in the car.
And
It's
sometimes on a horse, we also see him sometimes.
Well, he's got it, but what's he going to do with his time? I mean, I don't know. How's he affording the upkeep of the Royal Lodge? I do not know, but that's where he wants to stay. He's got a lease on it, and he will be determined, I think, to stay in there. Again, much to the frustration of the rest of the family, and he doesn't help himself by trying to give them something to feel, well done, you've done that, but actually stubborn and refuses to yield. And this must be, as I say, deeply frustrating for Prince William as he tries to think how his future monarchy might look.
Let's discuss News Nation's report about Prince Andrew. It says Andrew will be relegated to Royal Siberia, even more so than he is now, and not be invited to any family gatherings. That's similar to the article we just read. And unless there is a serious breakthrough in the coming years, Harry will likely get the same treatment from Prince William, silence. Where News Nation differs from the Telegraph article is that they say there is absolutely no way William would remove Prince Andrew and Prince Harry's Duke titles, as it would bring even more attention to the issues with them. I agree with that. It's never complain, never explain. If William goes through if William has to go through the process of getting Parliament involved, it is going to be splashed across every headline for, I imagine this would take years, and it would be World War III in the House of Windsor. It would be it would attract way too much negative attention. However, and I'd love your opinion on this, stripping them of their HRH, or Harry specifically, I don't know. I feel like Harry and Meghan continue to try to monetize it. I'm sure Prince Andrew does too behind the scenes. Let's say both of them is as easy as a declaration. I wonder if he did get fed up, if that would be an alternative, because that's something you can do overnight, basically.
I think we're not going to see anything going through Parliament whenever. That's not.
Yeah.
It is too. It then becomes too much of a spotlight, and then you get a bit of he said, she said. They try and defend their case, and I think in a way they've got to try and hope. And you sort of alluded to this may be the worst, but with Harry, we just don't know where he's going, and he is a rudderless ship at the moment. He doesn't seem to have been able to relax into his freedom that he says he has, with any degree of
finding freedom turned into fighting boredom real quick.
Well, and just sort of again sitting in his castle in Montecito, complaining about everybody, and it is frustrating. This is the frustration for William. He does not want to draw unnecessary attention, and doing something like that, calling Parliament to do something, just isn't going to happen. It's not a sensible move forward. I don't know whether they've done it. My knowledge of the previous monarchies, whether there's been situations like that, I don't know. But it's not something that would, I'm sure, be countenanced by the government. They've got more important things to be worrying about than two errant members of the royal family who are causing, while causing the king and the future king heartache. It's not something that I don't will be involved for the state here. I just can't see it happening.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. And well, we'll see you next week, but I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.